You guys, we have to talk about this book.
2, 3, 4. It's talking with Trenton, it's talking with Trenton. He's talking even when nobody listens. It's talking with Trenton, so pay attention to the latest edition of Talking with Trenton.
What if I told you that you are literally a slave? What if I told you that there's a reason that you're always sad, or you have a bad habit, or you find yourself doing things that you really don't want to do, but you do it anyway because it's just who you are? Well, today we are going to talk about that. And trust me, it gets juicy. But first, if you're new here, hi, hello, I'm Trenton. How you doing? This is my YouTube channel, where every week we talk about how we are improving our lives, making the world a tad bit better one day at a time. If you want to join the Train Gang Boomerang, feel free to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. It's free, and every time you click it, I like to pretend that it makes one of those squeaky noises, you know, like a rubber chicken. Go ahead, try it. Do it. Do it. Craig Groeschel is the founding pastor of Life Church, which just so happens to be the church responsible for creating the YouVersion Bible app. In his book, Winning the War in Your Mind, he talks about how every day, no matter who you are fighting a battle between you and your thoughts. Depending on what perspective you look at it from, you may recognize your opponent as the devil. And if you don't believe that the devil exists, please at least hear me out, because this book really blew my mind. Charles Baudelaire said that the greatest stunt the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he doesn't exist. Think about it, really. What if every time you had a bad thought, it's not really your thought at all? It's just the devil feeding you that thought. Every time you allow that thought to enter your mind, it gets easier and easier to believe. And eventually, you just think it's true. It's a part of who you are. Doesn't this sound familiar? I'll give you an example from my own life. I've talked a lot about my struggle with weight on this channel. And previously, I've named my bad thoughts Steve. Naming it Steve has allowed me to disconnect myself from the thoughts. But let's be real here. Steve is just Satan trying to be tricky and going by a different name. He think he's sneaky. And I'm willing to bet that he's in your brain too. So for me, way back around 5th or 6th grade, Satan fed me a thought that said I am too fat to have friends. So I might as well go isolate myself and not hanging out with any of my friends and overeat, because that'll make me feel better. Of course, I didn't know any better because I was hardly even a teenager, so I just listened to the lies. Next time Satan fed me a thought, it sounded a little more familiar and made a little more sense to me, so maybe it is true. This time, the thought sounded like, you are fat and ugly, so of course nobody wants to be your friend. In fact, they probably think you're creepy and weird too. See what happened there? Satan fed me a thought and I believed that it was true. Next time, he added to it, and I believed that was true. This went on and on until Satan had me convinced that I was somebody that didn't even exist. He convinced me that I was a fabricated image created by Satan. Cut to a decade later, and I actually believed that I was a fat, creepy, ugly loser that nobody wanted to hang out with. And I found myself isolating myself and avoiding social interactions. And when I was social, which if you know me, you know that's a lot, I excused myself from the conversations and didn't allow myself to believe that that was me being who I really am. And when everybody was not looking, I would beat myself up and stuff my face with food. This is really ironic, of course, because in reality, I'm a social butterfly. I love being there for people, and I love making new friendships and making people's day a tad bit better. But I let Satan put the thoughts in my head, and after believing it for so long, I just accepted that it was who I was. But Trenton, this would never happen to me. Let me put it this way. I really do believe that the creator of the entire universe created me. He created you, he created everybody that ever has lived, and he created everybody that ever will live. He created all of us in his image, which means that we were meant to be perfect. And in his eyes, he loves us just the way we are. The only problem is that once we start listening to Satan's lies, it's a slippery slope, and Satan starts to use us for his own gain. He starts convincing us things that just aren't true. And it might not just be lies about ourselves. He might convince us to be mean to other people or get mad about tiny little things. The more thoughts that we allow Satan to place into our brain, the more that Satan wins in this world. Like I said, God created us in his image, which means that he wants us to do good things in his name. He wants us to be there for each other. He wants us to respect our fellow brothers and sisters, respect our fellow humans that were also created in God's image. When Satan convinces us to do even the slightest things that are against God's plan, it puts another victory in the Satan column. Of course, we know that in the end, Satan is going to lose, and God is going to beat him up so hard, he will run home crying like a little kid that got beat up on the playground. But the truth still remains that we have a choice. Do we want to allow Satan to keep feeding us bad thoughts? Or do we want to capture that thought and declare that Satan is a freaking liar and he will be destroyed in God's name? Take that, devil! Pastor Craig goes into more detail about this in his book. He talks about a science thingy that is called neural pathways. Basically, let's think of the brain like an interstate. By the way, I recently moved to Atlanta and I'm still not used to this big city traffic. Did y'all know that they have interstates with 8 lanes of traffic? What the heck? So each time that you think a thought, another lane opens up. Once you think that thought again, or a similar thought, there's a little more stretch of road that's opened up in that lane. And again, and again. There are construction workers everywhere. And eventually, there's an entire interstate system with thousands of miles with dozens and dozens of lanes. You call yourself fat, it opens a new lane. You say that you'll never be able to control your eating, it paves a little more road inside that lane. You think, I'll never be able to fit inside my clothes, another mile paved. Then you think a separate thought about how that girl or guy hasn't texted you back, so they probably think you're annoying. Another lane is opened. Now, I am not a science man, but this is basically how it works. Every time you think a thought, your brain opens up a little more room to make that thought easier to think in the future. See how clever Satan is? The crazy thing is, Satan is a really smart dude. He knows how God works, and he knows how God's creation works. Of course, God is bigger than the boogeyman, so you better believe he's bigger than Satan. But Satan still knows exactly how to manipulate God's creation for his own gain. Before you know it, you don't know who you are anymore. Or even worse, you think you know who you are, and you're completely wrong. If we don't think we're good enough, how are we going to fight for God, help people, use our talents and skills to serve others and serve the Lord? We can't. The fact is that whether we like it or not, we are slaves. We are slaves to our thoughts, and we are slaves to Satan. But the good news is, God has already saved us. God gave us the ability to call on his son Jesus and defeat Satan no matter where we are. And with his strength and his strength alone, we can reverse the thoughts, and we will be redeemed in Jesus' name. Take that, devil! So, how the heck is this even possible? Well, my favorite Bible verse explains it perfectly. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then, and only then, will you be able to experience God's will, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." But before somebody tells me that this is just Bible mumbo jumbo, let's take a look at the science, shall we? That's right, I said science. That neural pathways thing allows thoughts to become stronger and stronger. But it also allows us to reverse those thoughts by thinking different thoughts. So every time that I think I'm so fat, I replace it with 2 good thoughts. I am doing such a good job. I am getting more confident every day. Ever since reading this book, I have started to do this with every toxic thought I have. Every time I have a bad thought, we capture the thought and we demand that it is not true by replacing it with positive thoughts that are true. Eventually, the neural pathways in your brain will literally create new pathways, and the old ones will become weaker and weaker. The interstate construction workers are closing the lanes and nobody's allowed to drive on them anymore. This literally works with whatever you're trying to do. Trying to stop beating yourself up so much, trying to stop being angry all the time, trying to stop biting your nails. Literally, whatever bad habit or bad thoughts you have, let's close those lanes, baby! Yay! That is this week's video. As always, thank you so much for watching and for sticking with me until the end. I really, really appreciate it. And if you don't mind, please give me a thumbs up. It really, really helps. And if you like this video, share it with your friends. Just copy the link and post it on Facebook or Twitter, or maybe text it to a friend that you thought about while watching this video. Either way, I love you guys so much. If you want to follow me on social media, all of that information is in the notes for this video. Check me out there if you want, just to see what I'm up to. Also, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications because I do post a new video every single Tuesday. Thank you! Until next time, I hope you have a really great week, and I hope your day just got a tad bit better.
TADBitBetterTV. TADBitBetterTV, where you watch some great videos. Click the left side of the screen to see what we made last week. Click the right side of the screen to see some of my faves. I'm sorry that didn't rhyme, but that's okay. Please don't hate. I'll see you next Tuesday. Goodbye. I'll see you later, alligator. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.